Xcel Energy says it will pay $640 million to settle lawsuits over the Marshall Fire. That fire that started December 30th, 2021 would kill 2 Coloradans and became the most expensive wildfire in state history. Estimated $2 billion worth of damage as it burned nearly 1,100 homes over 4 days. Investigators eventually pointed to more than one cause. There's a burn on a residential property that reignited, and there were arcing Xcel power lines. Despite the settlement, Xcel still insists it's not to blame for the fire.
This has really been a long time coming for people in Boulder County. The former mayor of Superior said today it's just a big step for people who have lost their homes, their jobs, or worse, and just a step in finding closure.
What we heard time and time again through in the aftermath of the disaster, people wanted to get their lives back. They wanted to get rebuilt and they wanted to get their lives back. And you know, a lengthy trial of years would not be part of that process. So I think from that respect, from getting it settled and moving on, this is just another piece of the whole rebuild process.
9 News reporter Shalima Maharaj joins us now.
And Shalima, you spent the day talking to people in Superior about the rebuild process.
That's right. Where we are right now is we're just in front of the McCaslin Bridge, and in this part of Superior there's a lot of new builds going up, a lot of new homes, and a lot of families still putting the pieces of their lives back together. We got a chance to catch up with one homeowner who is now back in his old neighborhood in a new home.
But there's little hints of things you remember.
Things that mean so much more now that they're home.
You know, looking out the backyard and, you know, just some views from the windows, but everything else is completely changed.
There isn't much Eric Ela takes for granted these days.
You know, if we go traveling and find something that we like on our travels that's, you know, not something you can just purchase online, it seems extra special because we don't have those things from before the fire.
1,084 homes in Boulder County were destroyed by the Marshall Fire, including the Ela's house in the Sagamore neighborhood.
It took us about a year to know whether we were going to rebuild.
It's a far cry from where they were nearly 2 years ago.
We just missed being here.
Moving from one rental home to the next, unable to move forward.
Thicker walls, triple pane windows, that sort of thing, and that tightness also kind of helps with the fire resilience.
Counting all the building permits that are still in the queue, the former mayor of Superior says more than 80% are going through the rebuilding process.
Had an online group of people that were affected in our neighborhood that we still have, that we still use. So it's, you know, used to be, you know, has anyone figured out how to do this with their insurance? Now it's, hey, is it, you know, recycling day tomorrow.
And that's just fine with Eric, who's home at last after rebuilding from the ground up. Now, something else that Eric says they're especially grateful for is being able to have a stable place to land. They had to travel around quite a bit before making that final decision to actually rebuild, and here they are today. Live in Superior, Shalima Maharaj, 9 News.
Many of the fire victims we contacted today told us their attorneys had asked them not to speak about the settlement. But Tanya Samaru has been something of a spokesperson for the fire victims. She organized a Slack channel for people who had questions about rebuilding and insurance and everything else. She told us today she's a plaintiff in the suit, but hasn't been told how much of the settlement she'll see. But she says, honestly, you just can't put a price tag on what she's lost.
Looking around my neighborhood, there were people who were institutionalized. There's divorces that happened. There's people who fought through the rebuild and finally got home and then succumbed to cancer a few months later. I mean, really sad circumstances. When you look at the whole scope of it, you know, nobody's ever going to be compensated for that, for all the disruption, for everything you lost, all the time and opportunity and the stress.
Samaru also says she's not been told when these settlements will be finalized. Let's bring in 9 News reporter Ria Jha to continue our coverage.
And Ria, even the people involved in the settlement really have a lot of unanswered questions.
Yeah, and that's because the settlement is an agreement in principle, which means no details have actually been made public yet. So what does that process actually look like moving forward? We spoke with a California wildfire attorney who's been through these cases before.
So many of these victims have suffered so much and for so long, 4 years to get to this result.
Years of waiting.
I remember at the time,
even from out of state, people remember the Marshall Fire.
Thinking, oh my gosh, that looks a lot like California.
Michael Aguirre especially paid attention. He was one of the attorneys who handled cases against PG&E, accusing them of causing wildfires in California. Aguirre knows how these cases go.
When you're about ready to go to trial, the defendants will say, okay, all right, we'll go along with this.
One day before trial, Xcel Energy reached a $640 million settlement with 4,000 plaintiffs.
Because it's very, very important for the victims to understand what the terms are before they give a release. How much of the 640 is actually going to go to the victims versus to the subrogated insurance companies?
Part of the payout will go back to insurers. We don't know how much. Aguirre says that portion could be based on how much they've already paid out. Then, he says what's left over won't be distributed evenly among victims.
No one's going to get 100% of their damages back. A personal injury recovery is different than a property damage recovery. So there's all kinds of different factors, and that's why they're going to have an administrator of the settlement overseeing it.
Aguirre says whoever that administrator is will be a key person to watch. They'll be the one managing claims, overseeing payouts, and making sure the process is fair.
It's a very tricky process. It'll take some period of time. It's not going to be overnight. Where you are right now, no one knows what the terms of the settlement are.
So as we wait for those terms of the settlement to be finalized, a checklist for plaintiffs moving forward are: 1, how much insurance companies will recover versus how much the victims will actually see, what the claims procedure will look like, and who is going to administer this process. Ria Jha, 9 News.
Our team has created an in-depth look at the first hours of the Marshall Fire, where you can click through a map and see what happened minute by minute as that fire spread. You can find that at the web address on your screen right now, marshallfiremap.com. And for all of our coverage on the fire and today's settlement, you can text the words Marshall Fire to the number on your screen, 303-871-1491, and we will text you back a link to our coverage.
Well, our weather tonight a little different than this time last night when it was still pouring rain and all chilly last night. Tonight, still a little bit on the cool side, but no rain, in fact, no clouds overhead. We're mostly talking about those temperatures in the 50s right now around the metro area. Statewide, not a drop of rain, basically not a cloud anywhere statewide right now. Those temperatures a little bit on the cool side, 40s, 50s, eastern plains, 30s and 40s for us in the mountains. It will cool down for us down into the 40s before dawn for us here in the Denver area. 50s right now, though, and as we head over the next few hours, those temperatures pretty comfortable, but as we get over the next few days, those temperatures going to warm on up, and we'll get a chance for rain in the mountains starting on Sunday. I'll tell you about it coming up in just a few minutes.
Tonight on Capitol Hill, congressional Republicans in the White House are working behind the scenes, according to CNN, to prevent a vote to release the Epstein files.
Here in Colorado, family members of one of Epstein's most vocal accusers are pushing to make sure that doesn't happen. 9 News' Phil Lipoff is here with more about what they're asking for. Phil.
Kim, Kyle, Virginia Giuffre's brother and sister-in-law, who live in Colorado Springs, are, as you say, pushing Congress to release the Epstein files, including flight logs, travel records, and the names of people connected to the case. Amanda and Sky Roberts spoke today outside Representative Crank's office in Colorado Springs. They're back here in Colorado after visiting D.C. to push politicians there to sign on to the Epstein Files Transparency Act, forcing the DOJ to release the files. Virginia lived in Penrose for a bit, and now her family is looking for that hometown help.
It's so important. As Colorado, this is our community, this is our home. Colorado was special to Virginia, and so I think we really, really hope that Colorado is the community that will drive that change.
Virginia Giuffre died by suicide in April of this year. She had been increasingly outspoken for more than a decade about the abuse she says she suffered at the hands of Epstein and others. So far, Representative Lauren Boebert is the only Republican here in Colorado and one of just a handful of congressional Republicans to join Democrats in that effort to get the files released. Phil Lipoff, 9 News.
The conversation after the shooting at Evergreen High School has focused a lot on why there was not a school resource officer present. But many schools in Jefferson County don't regularly have those officers. There had not been a full-time SRO at the school for 11 months. We've learned that Evergreen was actually one of the list of schools prioritized by the district to have an officer. The district has 107 elementary, middle, and high schools. Documents obtained by 9 News show 44, fewer than half, are prioritized by Jeffco schools to have an SRO. The district partners with 6 police departments and the sheriff's office to provide those officers. Reality is there aren't even close to enough trained officers to be at every school every day.
I am assigned as your school resource officer for this year. I'm a protector. I will gladly lay down my life for those that I love, and I love you.
That was video provided by the Jeffco Sheriff's Office. It's impossible to know for sure whether having an SRO on campus would have impacted the events 2 weeks ago. Jeffco Schools is now paying 50% of the costs associated with school resource officers at all of their schools. School board documents show that the district's security spending was trending over budget last year.
The FBI is investigating a deadly shooting at an ICE facility in Texas as an act of targeted violence. Authorities say a shooter with a rifle fired into an ICE transport van in Dallas today, killing 1 detainee and critically injuring 2 others. No ICE agents were injured in that shooting. Police say the shooter was found on a roof about 200 yards away. He had turned the gun on himself. Investigators are still trying to figure out a motive. The FBI says bullets found near the shooter's body contain messages that were anti-ICE in nature. A group of Coloradans under the organization Force Ukraine have gone to the front lines to train Ukrainian field medics.
Our photojournalist Mark Zaletta talked with them about the impact they've made and what they've seen in Ukraine.
My name is Michael Pete. I'm the team lead for Force Ukraine, a small volunteer organization of American healthcare providers who pair up with Ukrainian interpreters and teammates to provide advanced pre-hospital trauma medicine training across Ukraine. While we are here to teach, we really learn a whole lot more from them in terms of how to then teach it better as we go on. And every time we've come out, our training has evolved to meet that need. And we absolutely have people, not just people who repeat, but also people who've taken the course and then have gone back to either their bigger unit or their organization and said, you know, I took this training. I really want you guys to come and teach all my people. He went by sniper. He was a medic, and he was he was certainly not. And so we were training him in the western part of the country. A super young kid. He was like 24, goofy, exhausting as somebody who's trying to instruct because he had a million questions, but just a really positive, bubbly kid. And so we asked about him. We asked how he was doing. And the instructor told us that he had been killed. And it was heartbreaking. When we go down to Maidan, the big makeshift memorial that has just continued to grow. What started out as a small makeshift memorial in 2022 has now taken over most of the square. This is one of the harder parts about what we do out here, is that we know that people who've come to our class have died, and lots of them. My biggest fear is that, this war continues. There's no definitive off-ramp for it.
Last night, Mike and the other members of Force Ukraine added Sniper's picture to the growing memorial at Maidan. They'll be leaving Kyiv in the morning to continue teaching in the western part of the country.